Welcome to the Never Too Early Fantasy Football Podcast, where it is never too early for fantasy football. My name is Jeff.
And I'm Alex.
As always, thank you for downloading, listening, liking, and commenting on our podcast videos. Please join our community by subscribing to us on the socials. Our handle on all platforms is at N2E Fantasy. We are also available on all major podcasting apps by searching N2E Fantasy. Alex, what do we have on today's show?
On this episode of the Never Too Early Fantasy Football Podcast, we are recapping all the Super Wildcard weekend action. We will also recap how well we did with our September standings predictions for each team, and we will get you ready for the Divisional Round weekend. But first, here's some league news, Jeff.
So, Alex, you've been very vocal on X, and you can find Alex at AlexN2EF, and you were right. You tweeted out your head coaching predictions, and the Giants get their guy, which was your very first prediction, and they are signing head coach John Harbaugh to a 5-year deal. Alex, what other predictions did you have for the head coaches here?
Well, I have the Ravens going for Jesse Minter, the Chargers defensive coordinator. And I have the Dolphins going Jeff Hafley. They hired a Dolphins executive to be their GM. They'll bring in a Dolphins coach to be their head coach. Now, the Matt LaFleur situation, if Green Bay doesn't work something out with Matt LaFleur, then I could see the Dolphins going Matt LaFleur instead. But Jeff Hafley is who I have. Falcons, I have Kevin Stefanski because they need to go offense first. Steelers, I have Brian Flores. It'll be interesting to have them go from Tomlin, who was a defensive backs coach for Minnesota, to head coach with the Steelers, to the Minnesota defensive coordinator, Brian Flores, being the head coach for the Steelers. It's that tough guy, hard defense, heavy blitz mentality that they've consistently had over the last 19 years. Maybe they go in a different direction, but I think it's going to be a defensive guy. Cardinals, I have Robert Saleh. Very familiar with the teams in the NFC West. I think he could bring in somebody like Mike McDaniel to be his OC and kind of turn that team around. Whether he keeps Kyler Murray or whether he brings in Malik Willis or whatever, I think he would be much better than the previous administration. I also have the Raiders going for Clint Kubiak, partly because I think the Seahawks are going to go so far, they won't be able to hire Kubiak until that point, and the Raiders are going to sit and wait to hire a coach. And he's a young offensive mind who can eventually get this team going and maybe use their young talent. Titans, I have Brian Dable because the other quarterback they were looking to try to get was trade up for Cam Ward. And when they missed out on that opportunity, that's when they later traded up for Jackson Dart. So he's another quarterback that he wants. You know, it's a tax-friendly area. Nashville's a nice area. They've got a lot of cap space. It's very appealing to coaches, and I think he would be a good hire there. I think the backup hire is Matt Nagy, who I don't think should be hired by anyone, but might be. And then I have the Browns. I think they're going to swing and miss on a lot of coaches. I think they're going to go hard for Mike McDaniel, but I think that they're going to have to settle up on Grant Udinski, the Jaguars' young up-and-comer offensive coordinator, who everyone in that organization says is completely brilliant. He's an X's and O's guy. He's a very detail-oriented. Even Trevor Lawrence has credited him for helping him take the next step this year. So they have to go in on somebody before they get too hot, basically, because they're the least appealing landing spot for a coach.
Absolutely. Going back to your Dolphins prediction, you had said that was part of the Dolphins tree, Jeff Hafley. I think you meant it was part of the Packers.
Sorry, part of the Packers tree.
Absolutely. So you're leaving Mike McCarthy out of this round of head coaches here.
Yeah. I don't think Mike McCarthy or Mike McDaniel go the head coaching route this year. McCarthy, I don't think he gets the offer. McDaniel, I think he does get a head coaching offer or two and doesn't like the locations and decides to be a coordinator this year.
Well, yeah, I can't picture him in sub 20-degree weather, so you could probably cross off the Browns, Steelers, well, Giants and Ravens. So any of the warmer weather teams I could see him being the head coach of.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Do
I could
you
see him
think
be the Dolphins offensive coordinator. A lot of people want him to be the Eagles offensive coordinator or the Chargers offensive coordinator, maybe even the Bucks offensive coordinator. So there's any of those four teams, he rehabs his name again because they're very talented. Then maybe gets a better job in the future.
yeah, he's going to have to go somewhere that he believes is going to be most successful if that's going to be the case. He may get offers. He might get an offer that he accepts too. We just don't know at this exact moment. The Raiders are interesting because they have Tom Brady there and he had Bill Belichick all these years. So is he looking for an offensive minded coach or is he looking for a more Bill Belichick type of coach? Will be interesting there because I think Tom Brady's going to have a lot of say in who they hire this time around.
Well, I think they have a lot of young assets on the offensive skill positions. And on top of that, they have the first overall pick,
Mhm.
who happens to be a Kubiak, Shanahan tree type quarterback. Yes, Mendoza has his limitations, but he would fit this system. So it's conceivable that it would be appealing to a Shanahan Kubiak tree coach, and Clint Kubiak is that, and Clint Kubiak has been able to get a functional offensive line out of a substandard offensive line group in Seattle. Like they have two good offensive linemen in Seattle, and the other three are not great. So he could make it work with the Raiders.
No, absolutely. My only point was Tom Brady had a specific head coach for 20 years, was not offensive minded at all. And I don't know if he's looking for that CEO type at the top or if he's looking for an offensive guy to hit the ground running. So Pete Carroll was
Well,
never going to be that CEO type. So
well,
before we
they
go there,
Pete Carroll was supposed to be the CEO type,
we all know that he doesn't coach like that.
but no, I think they have to go young up and comer who is a hot name. I think they have to, honestly.
Could they
If
go
they
Mike
go,
McDaniel? Since you mentioned the Shanahan tree?
I mean, they could. I would rather go Kubiak at this point than Mike McDaniel.
Absolutely. We do know teams try hard for Mike McDaniel, though, as the head coach, because they could have given up 2 years in a row down the stretch, and they did not. So we do know that he has some sort of leadership qualities that we can't see.
I think McDaniel needs a year or two as a coordinator to change some of his tendencies as a head coach.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It'll be interesting to see what jobs open for 2027 as well, which we can speculate during the off season on, because if people rehab, the question is do they hop into another gig? What gigs are going to be open? So, all right. Well, as I was going to mention this during the Steelers game, but we can just mention it right now. But Mike Tomlin has stepped down as the Steelers head coach because you just mentioned that they have an opening. So we can definitely talk about Mike Tomlin stepping down as the Steelers head coach. It looks like Mike will be a TV analyst for a year and then potentially jump into these head coaching potential openings next year, depending on what teams are looking for. How do you think that will turn out?
I think Tomlin gets a lot more respect from the media and some teams' owners more than and he does have a good connection with some veterans, but I don't think he's a very good head coach. I think he's an average to above average head coach. I think he favors veterans too much, sometimes to the detriment of the team. He can be fine if he goes to a team that has an established quarterback. He could be good there, but he's very limited. I mean, he maxes out at 10 wins. He'll never get more than 10 wins. in a regular season. And he, other than early on in his career, he doesn't get past the first round of the playoffs. So, and not only that, the last 5 years, blown out by double digits. So not even close games. So to me, I know you look at it and you're like, wow, he's not had a losing season. Well, he's not really had that spectacular of a career either in the postseason.
No, I agree, and he could be different with a different philosophy in ownership, GM, and I think he fit the Steelers so well for so long. And we will see what that looks like, what openings there are next year, because there could be like the Jets, which I couldn't see them go defensive head coach again. There could be, trying to think who could be open next year. Like, I don't think the Bills could be open, but I couldn't see them hiring a Tomlin unless Josh Allen plus Tomlin equals multiple Super Bowls, because that is a possibility right there. So if the Bills magically open somehow, I'm just trying to think, because Zach Taylor's job could be gone, so the Bengals could be open next year. I feel like when we get to season bets, I want to talk about first head coaches that are going to be fired, and I feel like you're going to pick Zach Taylor. Like that's my hunch of first coaches that are going to be fired.
He should already be fired.
I knew you were going to say that, but I can't see Ryan or Cohen
the
going anywhere.
Steelers and Ravens fired, and Browns all fired better coaches than Zach Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I agree.
you could literally bring in Stefanski to the Bengals, and he would be dramatically better.
Possibly. I mean, there's some people out there that don't believe Stefanski's going to get a job this cycle, so that'll be interesting as well. So
if Stefanski doesn't get a job, it's not because of his coaching. It's because of rumors and things behind the scenes. I don't know if you saw the video of him saying, I don't lie, I wouldn't lie to you guys. And the camera zooms in on Myles Garrett's face and he's rolling his eyes behind his coach. So I'm like, there's something there. There's some tension in that locker room, and that might have contributed why they fired him.
well, Garrett's going to have the end say on all of that. If you have that season, you got a lot to say.
Yeah.
That season and that contract. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see where Tomlin goes in 2027. And I was just trying to think quickly in my head, like Steichen's job could be on the line here, because it was pretty clear that the Ursays are stating that at least a playoff berth is needed next year for Steichen and Ballard to keep their jobs. So it could be a job that opens. But here we are. Anything else on the head coaching cycle before we hop over to the rest of the news here?
Nope.
All right. Vikings wide receiver Jordan Addison was arrested for trespassing in Florida. This is his third known arrest since 2023, and it's becoming a pattern. Do you expect him to be in the league disciplinary path for this offense?
For sure. Yeah. He almost has to be. And he's not going to get a big contract if he keeps doing stuff like this. I mean, we already have the Rashee Rice stuff going on again.
They're
It's a
trying to
shame when
match
you
each other.
yeah. It's a shame when you have all this talent and you just decide to be a knucklehead. I mean, you don't even have your second contract. Receivers make a lot of money, and he's not going to get that big contract.
Absolutely, and it doesn't. This situation and him not growing up just gives me more pause on Jordan than Justin Jefferson being traded at this point, because I don't think they could trust Jordan Addison as a one. If they could, I could see them moving on from Justin Jefferson. Not moving on, but moving him for massive amounts of assets. So we go from current Vikings wide receiver to former Vikings, then Panthers, then Vikings, then Steelers wide receiver Adam Thielen. He retires from the NFL. Anything you'd like to say about Adam Thielen?
He's a great story. The local Minnesota kid who made the Vikings because he walked on in their local tryouts and had a great career while he was at it. It's a shame he ended it against the Texans.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. So for those of you who do not follow Alex on X, he is very big at posting mock drafts. And this week he had to take Oregon quarterback Dante Moore out of his mock draft because he will be staying in school and not entering the 2026 NFL draft. Alex, what does this mean?
It means the Raiders pick got more valuable if teams like Mendoza. It also means that teams will not be able to address quarterback in the first round this year. And we've already talked about older quarterbacks or quarterbacks that play more seasons in college come to the NFL playing better. Like Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, they came ready to play year one. And that's because the NFL doesn't really develop quarterbacks like they used to. And teams, fans, owners, they don't have the patience to sit there and struggle. No one's gonna sit there with Peyton Manning and struggle for years until they start winning playoff games and look good. So it's better for him. He makes almost as much money going back to school, and it makes next year's draft that much more stacked. And I know this draft was supposed to be a good quarterback draft, and it turned out not to be, but there's so many names next year. It's going to be pretty loaded.
Absolutely. I'm seeing in a mock draft that I'm looking at right now, I'm seeing only 2 quarterbacks so far going in the first round. So, how many are you predicting go in the first round?
I don't know if teams like the Alabama quarterback Simpson, if they do, I could see someone drafting him at the end of the first. If not, I could see only just one going in the first round this year.
Yeah, I'm seeing we will see.
I think there's a lot of third and fourth round quarterback prospects that teams might take a dart throw or two. I mean, I can imagine a team taking 2 quarterbacks in this draft just to see if one pans out.
Absolutely. All right. And speaking of draft quarterback news, was he drafted in 2022, I believe. Panthers pick up the 5th-year option of quarterback Bryce Young. So he will be back for the 2026 and the 2027 season. So I think he was a 2023 draft pick, now that I say that out loud and do the math in my head.
Yeah, 2023. I think that's the right move to keep controlling. Like he's improved each year. Each year he's gone up. It's funny enough, Stroud has gone down every year, and Bryce Young has gone up every year, and they had almost the same stats this year.
Yeah, I would have swapped them after year 1, and now I wouldn't. So it just feels weird. Like, how does that even happen? One has an offensive coach and one has a defensive coach. We talk about this all of the time.
Well, you can have a defensive minded head coach as long as you have the coordinator, and I don't think the Texans have the right coordinator. And that's been a struggle. And other defensive coaches that don't find the coordinator eventually get fired. In Tomlin's case, it took 19 years.
He didn't get fired either. He stepped down. He's technically still under contract to the Steelers.
They weren't going to give him a new deal.
They wouldn't have to. He signed through 2027. He's got 2 more years on his deal.
Well, he would have been a lame duck coach.
He's got 2 more years.
I thought he only has one more year.
No, they have a club option for him in 2027.
I think they would have just made it a clean 20 years.
Yep. So we'll see. We'll see if they pick it up or not now, because they have to decide by March 1st how long do they want to control his rights for and make for trading him a little bit harder.
You know what an interesting spot for Tomlin would be next year?
Where?
Eagles. Then he would play, his team would go against Harbaugh again.
That's true. That is true. I will say, though, that I don't think Jalen Hurts is it, so he's back in the same spot of quarterback purgatory.
Maybe they trade Jalen Hurts and keep Tanner McKee. Who knows?
He did not impress me week 18, though. I will say that. He had a shot to really become a good trade asset, and he looked okay. They trusted him more in passing, but not enough to be like, wow, I need to go give a second rounder for this guy tomorrow type thing.
Well, how much of that is the offensive coordinator they demoted Like everyone can
Absolutely.
point out how terrible their play calling has been. So
Absolutely. I would have loved to see him though hit the ground running because that would have been really cool. A really cool story this offseason because
well,
did add him to my fantasy sheets.
Jalen Hurts did that to Nick Foles. So I mean, or Wentz. I guess it was Wentz.
Yeah, absolutely. Foles got paid off of a Super Bowl MVP performance.
Yeah,
Who paid? I don't remember who paid him now. I was trying to
the
think about that.
Rams. I think
Okay.
it's the Rams. And then the Rams traded him back to the Eagles a couple years later.
That was a Bradford thing too, right?
Yeah, they swapped uh Bradford and Foles, and then later on they traded Foles back.
Bradford, I think, still has made some of the most money at quarterback ever.
Well, he's the reason why there's a salary cap for draft picks.
I like that though because it stops holdouts and stuff like that. Like I know it caps salaries and like that's anti whatever, but I do like the fact that it ends holdouts and such for the most part. We might get one or two a year because they want all guaranteed money or their bonus up front or whatever.
Offset language, whatever.
Yep, absolutely. Any other news that you can think of before we hop over to Super Wildcard Weekend?
No, let's go ahead and get started.
So the wild card round, we featured a couple of buys for the Broncos and the Seahawks as the number one seeds, and we got kicked off on Saturday evening with the fifth seed Rams at the fourth seed Panthers. We both picked the Rams, and the Rams score last and move on in a game that was supposed to be one-sided, but they won 31. Stafford starts off hot, then cools off, and then he ends the game hot. He did injure his hand in the game, but he was able to overcome that and put the team kind of on his back for a victory towards the end there. But Nakua was another story. He had some good and bad plays in this game. A brutal drop that could have been a touchdown at the end of the first half. But also, Stafford threw a really bad ball that was almost picked, and Nakua broke up the interception. So he made plays in areas that aren't going to show up in stat sheets, but he was no unquestioned number one target. And Adams was out there, but you could see that he had a little bit of rust as far as being able to bring in footballs that he normally does. But the Panthers defense is the real story here. They played very well in this matchup. I know they gave up 34 points, but you have to remember that the Rams are an offensive juggernaut with Adams and Nakua and Stafford and Williams and Corum. So they were able to go toe to toe with them, but also there was some interceptions and some passes broken up by the secondary that they're looking really good. They're on the upswing. Speaking of the upswing here, Bryce Young has a good first playoff outing. Like normally you play uptight in your first playoff game. Coker is taking steps to be the number one or the number two wide receiver for the Panthers. I know Tet has kind of fallen off the last few weeks and not as involved, but Coker has really stepped it up. And Hubbard fully took over for Dowdle, and that will impact Dowdle's free agent signing this off season. He did mention it as much in his exit interview, and the Rams travel to Chicago for round two. Alex, we both picked the Rams. What did you notice in this game that I didn't notice?
No, I think you summed it up pretty well. I would just say, really, it's just the first quarter that set the Panthers back. If they were able to score on offense at all in the first quarter, they would have won because, I mean, you look at the third and fourth quarter, they have the exact same scores in that quarter. So, I mean, that's the only separator. They played very strong for being a team that had a losing record going into this matchup. I think they should build on this and improve, and they might be able to win the NFC South again next year.
It is possible that that division is going to be very tough going forward. And there was a lot of yelling at the TV in the first quarter because there was Trevor Etienne that decided to muff a punt, almost muffed the second one. There was a couple fumbles. The ball was not bouncing our way in the first quarter.
It happens.
It does. It
It's
does.
the first playoff game in a while, so just get your
Yeah,
toes wet.
I like it. It would have been nice to walk out with a victory, but it was a good showing. So we were treated to the first three games being crazy close. Even the fourth game was pretty close, but nothing beats this next game here, where the Bears completed one of the biggest fourth quarter comebacks in NFL playoff history and win late 31-27. I picked the Bears. You picked the Packers. The Bears do move on. Love was actually really good in this game with 4 passing touchdowns. They mostly came in the first half. Um, Second half, he wasn't as great or as spot on. I would have expected more rust early than late for Love because of his injury and his little layoff there. Romeo Dobbs was playing what could be his last game with the Packers. Same thing with LaFleur. There's rumors out there that they could move off of the Packers, or the Packers can move off of him. Do you believe that the Packers move off of LaFleur?
It's a tricky situation because they do like him, but now Harbaugh's off the table. They want to have a favorable deal with LaFleur. He may want more money than what they're offering, and they may not come to an agreement. And the general manager has already said that they will not do a lame duck situation. So either he gets extended or he gets cut loose. Those are the only two options. He's not going to play on a 1 year deal. They're not going to coach on a 1 year deal. But the Packers also spend the fewest amount of dollars on assistant coaches, and that's another thing in LaFleur's favor is he brings in a lot of inexperienced coaches that he's familiar with, whether they played for him or they coached at a junior level with him. He brings them in the prominent positions. They literally have the least experienced staff in the entire NFL, I believe. So it's going to be interesting how it plays out. And I think at this point, they probably work out a compromise.
Absolutely. I think it would be a mistake to let him go at this point. The team is putting up some offensive numbers. Kraft is gone. Kraft was I saw a stat today that he was, when Jordan Love threw to him, that he was the receiver with the highest quarterback, and he's not even a receiver, he's a tight end, but he was the best weapon for a quarterback this year, where the quarterback rating was for that play. Dalton Kincaid was also on that list. So
I will say in this game, I was sitting pretty at halftime when it was 21-3. And then even the end of the third quarter, I'm like, okay, 21-6. Then Chicago puts up 25 points in that fourth quarter. And I think people forget that Caleb Williams was terrible for 3 quarters. Like absolute garbage
it makes you
showing in the
forget.
first 3 quarters. He put them in that hole, and then they had to score 25 points to get out of it. And the second half, Jordan Love just couldn't read the field. He only wanted to pass on the sidelines. He didn't see the open man running across the screen. And for the viewer, for us, I was watching it on the Amazon Prime with the stats and everyone circled, so I can clearly see the circled guy running across the field with no defender near him. And Love's not even looking that direction. So I don't know. I don't think Love is that good of a quarterback, in my opinion. I think his bottom half quarterback. I think the same for Caleb Williams, unfortunately. But you wouldn't know it because they both passed 46 and 48 times for well over 300 yards. And that's all anyone's going to see.
Absolutely. And I think that you have to give Caleb a little more grace. This was his very first playoff game, and it is normal to play tight early on in your first playoff game. So I do think that we talk about that. And Bryce Young played pretty tight early, and he loosened up also. So playoffs are no joke. And he won his first playoff game. So pretty big deal. But Loveland is what I want to talk about, because I know we've argued enough about Caleb Williams offline, and we could definitely have an off-season podcast fully on Caleb Williams. But where are you drafting Loveland in 2026 redrafts? I know you're not fully there yet, but I do have an answer. if you want to punt it back to me.
For me, I don't know if I'd put a round on it yet, but I would put him in the top 5 or top 6 at the tight end position for whatever that means.
He is number 4 for me right now. Number 4. So completely agree with you on that. Do you want to know who I have ahead of him?
Yeah, who do you have ahead of him?
Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, and George Kittle, and that's it.
Are you going to take George Kittle off now that he tore his Achilles?
No. He has a severe negative multiplier, and he's still finished ahead of Loveland in the projections. So I think if he can get back to like 80%, he is going to be still a focal point of that offense. You want to know who my number 5 is?
Sure.
Harold Fannin Jr.
What about the Colts guy?
He is number 7 on my list.
So you have
Laporta's
Warren at
number
7.
6 between them. Yep.
I've seen some negative talking points on Laporta's injury and the outlook for him next year. So I'd be hesitant to have him that high, which is unfortunate because I really like Laporta, but after that rookie season, he's kind of been derailed a lot.
I agree with that. Mostly injuries, but I still have Kelsey at 8. He finished 3rd this year, so I don't feel like that's crazy. If he retires, obviously, he just bumps everyone up a spot. But Kraft is the one that gets the severe negative multiplier with the ACL, and he's my 9th tight end right now.
I think we may see some young guys rise up that we're not expecting. Could Arroyo blow up next year?
Does he pass AJ Barner right now, who has been on a tear?
Could Taylor and with the Jets blow up? Could Evans with the Panthers blow up? Like, there's a lot of guys out there that didn't have a big rookie year that could blow up year 2. What?
Notice you didn't say Sanders there after you traded him to me.
Well, I didn't want you to confuse him with the other Sanders. I like Jadavion Sanders. I like Evans as well. What I don't like is Tommy Tremble constantly running out there. I'm like, how many times are you gonna have this guy out there over your 2 best, in my opinion, tight ends?
Yep. Oronde Gadsden's in my tight end 1.
Yeah, that's what about Hunter Henry? Hunter Henry should be top 3, man. Are you kidding me?
He's number 14 on my list right now.
Oh.
Pitts is 13.
You think Pitts stays with Atlanta, or do you think Pitts leaves?
I don't know. I really don't know. I can't imagine he's happy with his time there, but stranger things have happened.
I mean, if Stefanski goes there, Stefanski has a good record with tight ends.
Yeah, that is true. We will see. We'll see if he resigns. Chigo is also a free agent. I was trying to think if Kelsey would potentially go anywhere else, but probably not at this point. Dallas Goedert's a free agent. He had a crazy end of the season. He's just been a touchdown machine. A lot of free agents, though. You got Darren Waller, free agent. Kate Otten.
You can't stop talking about Waller, can you?
Your boy Zach Ertz is a free agent who may never play again.
Yeah. In my latest mock, I have the Eagles taking the Oregon tight end, Sadiq.
Okay. So you have them moving off of Goddard or bringing Goddard back plus?
They might have another year of Goddard, but a lot of Eagles fans have indicated that even performing better than some other tight ends, he's been declining.
Yeah. He was the only thing that was working at points on that offense, though, as far as scoring goes.
Yeah, but Sadiq there would be good, or with the Broncos, or with a number of teams could use a receiving tight end. All right. What other matchups do we have?
Next one up was the Bills, the number 6 seed, at the number 3 seed, the Jacksonville Jaguars. We both picked the Bills. Another great playoff game ends in a Buffalo win, 27-24. Josh Allen battles 3 or more injuries for 3 total touchdowns. Gabe Davis and Shavers, wide receivers for the Buffalo Bills, tear their ACLs in this game. Both of their careers could be in jeopardy for different reasons. Gabe Davis is obviously performing his way out of the league, and Shavers was a bottom of the roster guy, so we may never hear or see their names again. Trevor Lawrence turnovers were the difference in this game. Parker Washington could be on the radar to be the wide receiver 1 for Jacksonville in 2026. He just keeps catching balls from Trevor Lawrence. Not really sure how this connection all of a sudden heated up, but it really did heat up under Cohen. And ETN is going to be the biggest question this year. Will he return to the Jaguars? And next week, we have on deck the Bills traveling to Denver in the next round. What makes you of this matchup?
Well, I'm a fan of Parker Washington, and I liked him before it was the cool thing. And to me, Parker Washington's success really, to me, is funny. That it makes it hilarious that they traded what they did to get Travis Hunter, who overlaps with Washington and Myers. So it felt like they just threw away roster positions. They could have got somebody else who filled a different need, or maybe actually played full-time corner, and maybe they could have advanced past the Bills this week if they did that, but they didn't. They got a tweener who was very hyped up. So I think Trevor Lawrence is who I thought Trevor Lawrence is, and the Jaguars who I thought the Jaguars were. Yes, they played competitively, but I'm not super high on the Bills roster this year, so to me, this didn't really mean that much. I think the Bills won basically purely on Josh Allen's grit, and without that, they wouldn't have done anything in this game because they couldn't get the run game going, and their best wide receiver remains to be Shakir, who should probably be a number 3 on a reasonable roster or number 2.
I totally agree with that, but I will say Brandon Cooks is really coming on as a go-to weapon for Josh Allen right now.
Is he cooking?
He is. We got Josh and the Cooks, James and Brandon.
All right. Good win for the Bills on the road against a tough team. Jaguars, it's Cohen's first playoff game as a head coach. They should be able to build on it. It's the NFL though, so you never know. But hopefully
Good
for
first
Jags
year
fans,
together, though.
yeah, very good first year.
And I think once Lawrence picked up the offense, I think Lawrence really got going the second half of the year. Like, he was a fantasy stud, actually, the second half of the season. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes in fantasy drafts. I don't believe that he cracked my top 12, but he did crack my top 12. He's number 11 next year for me.
I don't know if you play any best ball, Jeff, but I'm pretty sure Trevor Lawrence was on the rosters of all of the top teams that won $2 million in $1 million prizes because of how the second half of the year went.
That makes sense. That does make sense. I do not play best ball anymore, but I did at one point because I did think the drafting was the best part of fantasy season. And that's great. Don't get me wrong, but managing my roster week to week is where my forte is. Like, I do love roster management week to week. All right. So speaking of rosters, we have two teams that you made very clear offline. The number 6 49ers at the number 3 Eagles. I had picked the Eagles. You had picked the 49ers. I felt really good about this game, but in the end, the 49ers with less talent and better coaching beats the team with worse coaching and better talent as the 49ers grind out a victory in Philly 23-19. In this matchup here, as you had mentioned earlier, George Kittle does tear his Achilles, so he will be out for like 6 to 9 months. Do anticipate him being ready close to the start of the season. And Purdy doesn't have his best game with 2 interceptions and 2 touchdowns. Christian McCaffrey was held in check on the ground, but has two touchdowns receiving. Demarcus Robinson signing finally pays off here. And Jalen Hurts doesn't show up when needed, but Barkley does get 26 touches in this game, so we'll have to wonder if he's going to be a bigger focal point going into next year on the offense. Speaking of next year, will A.J. Brown be an Eagle in 2026?
I mean, the GM was trying to downplay that. I don't know.
Gushing.
Clearly AJ Brown's not happy, and he had a terrible drop-filled game. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Maybe he's trying to drive up the price. We'll
Yeah, I
see.
mean, at this point, I think even Greg Roman would be a better coordinator for the Eagles than what they're doing right now.
Absolutely. The Eagles did fire their offensive coordinator, Kevin Patullo, after this game. So it'll be interesting to see where they go for
They
offensive
demoted
coordinator.
him. They didn't fire him.
They
He's
removed him from his role.
yes.
Thank you for the correction there. And the
Yeah.
49ers will head to Seattle in a week 18 rematch. Divisional third time that they play this season too. Should be a great game. Anything else on this game here, Alec?
Nope. Let's go to another game you were wrong, Jeff. This is fun. Let's do this next one.
Ah, so the next game here was the number 7 Chargers at the number 2 Patriots. You had picked the Patriots, I picked the Chargers. And the Patriots win a defensive battle, which is kind of interesting here. 16-3. Herbert was the leading rusher for the Chargers, which is not good. And therefore, the Chargers do fire offensive coordinator Greg Roman after this game, which is why you just mentioned him for the Eagles role. May struggled less than Herbert in this one, but also led his team in rushing. Ramondre Stevenson goes over 100 total yards. I think Stevenson Henderson's going to be an interesting discussion going into next year. But the Patriots will now host the Texans, which will be our next matchup that we go over in the divisional round.
I don't know, Jeff. You said everyone was underrating Herbert and Harbaugh and that connection. And I was like, I think the Patriots are gonna win. You
They did
poo-pooed
win.
me.
Congratulations. You got it right. I got it wrong. What more do you want me to
Man,
say?
I feel bad for Herbert. 3 playoff games, he loses all 3 pretty bad. To be fair, we were sold a bag of lies that Hampton was probably going to play, and he had 1 rushing attempt for -1 yard the entire game. And it was like he was very, very highly questionable right before the game started. And like everyone's like, "Are you kidding me? Like, why wouldn't you tell us this?" But I mean, they're trying to get some kind of advantage. I think having the worst offensive line is what got Greg Roman fired and the O-line coach, which I don't think you can blame them for their top offensive linemen, 2 of the best tackles in the entire league, both getting out for all of the season or the majority of the season, and everything else just fell apart. Not scheming more short passes to McConkey, who can get yards after the catch, who is a very reliable wide receiver. I don't understand that. And there were several plays I felt like they could have utilized Quentin Johnston better, like when uh, the Patriots' star cornerback got hurt and got knocked out of the game with concussion. They had several chances that they could have one-on-one Quentin Johnston for a deep route and burn the coverage, and they didn't even try. I don't think they tried one time at that point. So that made no sense to me as well. Yeah, they just look overmatched in this one. I didn't expect the Patriots defense to look that good against the Chargers. I thought both offenses struggled early, but Drake May seemed to pick it up in the second half.
Absolutely. I really didn't know which way this game was going until a little bit later because I think both teams on offense didn't look super comfortable.
Yeah.
May does escape with his first playoff win in his first playoff game. So I know you like to slam Caleb, but May looked just as bad early on against the Chargers. So
Yeah. Who did the Bears? Bears played Green
Packers.
Bay. Yeah. Who have no secondary. Their secondary is
But
so
I
bad
would,
they moved a wide receiver to corner and he got hurt.
yeah, I would call the Patriots and Chargers defenses pretty even though
Wow.
overall.
Chargers defense is better than the Packers defense at this point.
Yeah, the pendulum swung, but that's because of mostly because of Parsons. Yeah, they got Trayvon Diggs now.
Yeah, that didn't work out.
Any other comments on this matchup? We'll obviously talk more about the Patriots coming up soon, but
I think both teams will be back next year. Chargers, I mean, they get their offensive line healthy and maybe they add a couple more bodies there, like maybe a swing tackle and improve their interior. I think they'll be back.
I don't disagree with you, and I would love to see them back next year. Oh, right. I have an interesting tidbit for a matchup coming up when we get to the divisional round. But before we get to the divisional round, we have a couple more things to go over. The first one is the number 5 Texans at the number 4 Steelers, and we both picked the Texans in this matchup. I was a little worried, though, because if you noticed, I got the first 3 right. I thought I was going to get the second 3 wrong. So I was a little worried going into this matchup. Plus, the Steelers streaked from the 90s, having a Monday Night Football win streak. But the Texans' offense here almost fumbled this one away, and that is pun intended. But the defense bails them out in a 30-6 victory. Stroud looked off this entire game with 3 turnovers. I think it was 2 fumbles and 1 interception. And it could have been a lot more fumbles because he bobbled a ton more snaps. I don't know what was going on between him and the center in this particular matchup, but Stroud looked really off and really rattled in this matchup. He even threw a touchdown pass to Christian Kirk, but it was behind Christian Kirk, and he had to actually adjust his body to catch it and get into the end zone when he could have actually let it in front of him and he could just walk right in. But Woody Marks does have a career night, so that does help take the pressure off of Stroud. And Rodgers and the Steelers offense do absolutely nothing as they were smothered and they did nothing with the turnovers. Mike Tomlin officially steps down after this. Houston is going to Foxborough this upcoming week. But is this it for Aaron Rodgers? Do we have a definitive answer yet on that?
Well, I don't think he'll be back with the Steelers if he comes back. I think we both have Vikings watch for Rodgers. I think that might be one of the only places he would go. Steelers were terrible. Like they had multiple opportunities to do something. They got 3 turnovers from the Texans. It could have been 6. One of these Stroud fumbles, I don't think should be credited to him because his center clearly snapped at the wrong time. No one else on the line moved at all.
Well, there was one that he recovered that was snapped when Stroud didn't want it.
Yeah, the one that whacked him in the face.
Yep, the 2 that he lost, though, were actually strip sacked fumbles. Yeah. But he could have lost so many more between that exchange.
Yeah, he seemed like somebody put oil on his fingers with how loose the ball handling was for him. I don't know. But Woody Marks had a hell of a game. Christian Kirk had randomly a huge game in this one, and he put up numbers that you would normally give to Nico Collins. Nico Collins got a concussion, is most likely out for next week. I'm not sure that matters with how the Texans offense is functioning right now. I love Nico Collins. I think he's a top wide receiver in the league, but the way this offense is functioning, he's irrelevant for the moment, which is crazy to say. But I've always been telling Jeff repetitively that I think the depth and talent of the receiving core is pretty deep, and Christian Kirk blowing up randomly, I think, kind of shows that. But the defense getting 2 defensive touchdowns was pretty nice. Pretty nice.
Absolutely. And they'll have a defensive matchup against the Patriots next week, so we'll see what happens there. But before we hop over to the divisional round, I would like to go over our 2025 season recap part 2. We did save the standings for this week here, and we had teams that we were 100% right on this year. Alex, the teams that you got 100% right in your September predictions in the standings for wins was the Chargers, the Giants, and the Vikings. So you had 3 teams completely correct. I had 6 teams completely correct: the Steelers, the Cowboys, the Giants, the Eagles, the Falcons and the Niners. I know that you had ripped on me a little bit about the Eagles. You're like, come on, they're the defending champs. They got all this talent. And I was like, something just doesn't feel right about this team. I predicted that they were going to lose week 1, and they probably should have to the Cowboys if CeeDee Lamb doesn't drop 4 balls in the last 5 minutes of the game. But teams that we were off by 1 on, you had 5 that you were off by 1 on: the Steelers, the Texans, the Titans, the Rams, and the 49ers. And I was off by 1 on the Dolphins, the Browns, the Lions, the Panthers, the Saints, and the Buccaneers. I know you did make fun of me early on, but like, come on, the Panthers can't be 7-10. I think I had them. And I'm like, Canales was good last year. But I also didn't anticipate the Buccaneers to fall this much, but they actually only fell 1 win below where I had them. So if there's anything that I can tell by this, I'm really good at the NFC South. Like, I had the Panthers, Saints, and Buccaneers within 1 victory of one another. And here comes the whiffs. You ready for the whiffs? For you, Alex, the Patriots had 4 more wins than you had them. The Jets had 5 less wins. The Ravens had 6 less wins. The Bengals had 6 less wins. The Colts had 4 more wins. The Jaguars had 6 more wins. The Chiefs had 6 less wins. The Raiders had 4 less wins. Commanders had 5 less wins. Bears had 5 more wins. The Falcons and Panthers had 4 more wins. Same thing with the Saints had 4 more wins. So the South was a little rough for you there. The Cardinals had 5 less wins, and the Seahawks had 5 more wins. So Seahawks really overperformed this year. The most overperforming teams versus what you thought were the Bears, the Seahawks, and the Jaguars, which is kind of crazy because I know how you feel about them behind the scenes. I feel like you don't like any of them. You might like the Seahawks now, but I know you were down on Darnold going into the year. You're like, no one wants him. There's no change between him and Geno Smith. And how do you feel about that now?
The change is he connects with his deep ball better than Geno, basically.
Yeah. Geno really suffered this year, and we may never see Geno Smith as a starting quarterback in the league again. But my whiffs, I had a couple of whiffs that were worse than yours, actually. The Patriots had 7 more wins than I thought they were going to have. Same thing with the Jaguars. They had 7 more wins than I thought they were going to have. So I was right there with you that the Jaguars were going to be the second worst team in that division. Bengals, because of the Burrow injury, had 5 less wins. The Broncos had 4 more wins. Chiefs had 7 less wins. That is insane to me from where I had the Chiefs. Raiders had 5 less wins. Commanders had 4 less. The Bears had 5 more. Same thing with the Seahawks, 5 more. And then the Cardinals had 5 less wins than we were at. So I would like to say that our standings are relatively on point, but we had a couple of blind spots as far as teams go, and the biggest ones were like the Jaguars and the Chiefs and the Patriots, actually. So we have one of those teams. We have three of the teams that I whiffed on, or 4 of them, are still going, and I think 5 of the teams that you whiffed on are still going. So interesting. We missed some playoff teams. What can we take away from this, and how can we figure out who's going to improve next year? Because that's what I really want to look at, is next year, and how we can figure out what team is going to go worst to first, or in the case here, have 5 more wins than we thought they were going to have.
Well, I'm thinking about it, and it's really, I mean, the Bears ascending also correlates with the Lions descending. And, you can't predict all the injuries that teams get as well. So,
Absolutely.
I don't know. It's hard.
We're pretty close on the Lions, though. So the Lions weren't the biggest thing. The Vikings. Well, what's really funny is the Vikings kind of backdoored their way to a winning record, right? 9-8.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, it's hard to predict the last 2 weeks. You never know if a team's gonna not try or try. When I say that, a playoff team that has nothing to play for, if they're just going to keep their guys healthy, you could try to guess that. Or a bad team, deciding to play hard even though it cost them their draft pick. And with the Chiefs, I don't think anyone expected the Chiefs to really crumble this hard this year. Like that, it's quite a bit.
They faced a lot of adversity this year. I mean, with Mahomes at the helm next year, I feel like they've always got a shot in every game. But they won a crazy amount of one-score games the year before, and that just it evens out over time, and it just evened out on them all at once this year. All right.
Yeah, but I'm still shocked that the Jets crumbled as hard as they did because I didn't really think that they were a good team, but I didn't think that they'd be so bad. They'd be one of the only teams ever to have 0 interceptions in the history of the league on
Oh, their
defense.
defense got worse.
With a defensive-minded head coach, they became the
Poor,
worst defense ever.
poor Salah. Poor Salah. All right.
All
Let's
right, let's do
see.
the divisional round matchups.
Sure, let's get everyone ready. First matchup Saturday at 4:30. It's the number 6 seed Buffalo Bills at the number 1 seed Denver Broncos. Who are you taking, Alex?
You would start with me.
You start every week. 8 comes before J.
You know, looking at all the statistics for the breakdowns, a lot of it favors the Broncos, but Josh Allen can will himself to defy the odds, man.
Do you take Superman or do you take the super defense?
Well, I don't want us to be the same, Jeff. I'll go with Broncos on this one.
I'm going to go the Bills. I'm sure everyone has seen this, but Sean Payton has asked the crowd to be loud as the Bills are in the huddle, not when they're breaking it. I think he knows that he needs the crowd in this game, and I think that sends a little bit of a message to the locker room that they don't got it.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a good chance the Bills win. I just, it's barely even, but I'm gonna go Broncos. I'd be fine with the Bills winning anyway. To be honest with you, the Bills, Texans, who are the other guys in the NFC that might not have won yet? Bears, all of them in the NFC have won a Super Bowl, but Bills and Texans haven't.
Right. So we hop over to the NFC. And the one thing I will note here is it's both 6 seeds playing both 1 seeds, both 5 seeds playing both 2 seeds. But the 1 seed here are coming off of 13 days rest. And the Bills and the 49ers are coming off 6 days rest. So that'll be an interesting little conundrum. Here, the second game up is the number 6 seed 49ers at the number 1 seed Seahawks. I'm going to go the Seahawks in this matchup. I just don't think the 49ers have the firepower at 8 p.m. on Saturday to defeat the Seahawks.
Yeah, I agree. I'm also going Seattle.
So what's interesting is the Seahawks and 49ers opened the year and the 49ers won that game. They closed the year, the Seahawks won that game, and now here they are meeting in the playoffs, and we're going to end somebody's year with these two. So these two have been intertwined fates all year. That brings us to our Sunday matchups. The number 5 Texans at the number 2 Patriots. Alex, who are you taking in this matchup?
I think both AFC matchups are 50-50. And I took the home team earlier. I'm going to take the away team this time. I'm going to go the Houston Texans, predominantly for their defense.
Okay. Well, they're not going to have a cupcake matchup with a 42-year-old quarterback again. Rather, they have the opposite side of the spectrum here. They have an athletic, nimble 23-year-old quarterback. And I'm going to go the Patriots in this matchup, and that hurts a little bit. But I do agree with you that this is probably the closest 50-50 matchup so far that we've talked about.
Patriots on the AFC side are probably the most well-balanced team left, but they're not really good at everything. You know what I mean? Like they don't excel at any one thing. Texans have the best defense probably in the entire playoffs. Maybe Seattle's on par with them, or at least just close. Texans have pieces on offense. They just can't get their offense to function correctly. Bills have the best quarterback. Broncos have a very good defense. They just have no run game whatsoever, and that's a big problem at this stage. and their wide receivers aren't much better than, say, the Bills wide receiver group or the Patriots wide receiver group. I just think the one good left tackle the Patriots have in this matchup, the one good offensive lineman they have is very susceptible to a speed rush, and both Texans edge rushers can exploit that. Texans have two of the best corners in the league. They don't even have to blitz teams. They can pressure with just their front four and have everyone else in coverage. I think that would make it really hard for Drake May to get anything going. Texans are good against the run as well. So they have to have like an explosive play against the Texans because that's the only way that you're going to score big on them. And all the Texans have to do on offense is just run like they did last week against the Steelers, against the Patriots in this one. And Stroud just has to hold on to the ball. That's it. That's it. Let's do it, Tim Tebow. Let's throw 9 passes.
We will see. We will see if the Texans, Seahawks, Bills win so far, and then the Seahawks win the NFC Championship game and the Bills win the AFC Championship game. I had mentioned offline that the Bills could face the Jaguars, Broncos, Texans, and Seahawks defenses on the way to a Super Bowl, which would be one of the most impressive runs in memory. So there is that path. We'll see what the script writers have for us this year, because I'm always on the edge of my seat with what they have written for us.
Well, conversely, if the Patriots and Broncos win, it's 2 second-year quarterbacks playing each other in the playoffs in the AFC Championship.
That is true. I don't have either of them. Well, I do have one of them winning, but I don't know. Oh man. I feel like the Rams would walk to a Super Bowl if they were still alive, excuse me. And so with Sunday games though, they're oddly staggered. So they're not to our 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock start times. They are to our 3 o'clock and 6:30 start times. And the second game, which starts at 6:30, is the number 5 Rams at the number 2 Bears. And Alex, we were talking offline before this podcast about the weather in this matchup and how it could be very, very, very cold, and that would ruin the game plan a little bit for the Rams, who love to play in the warm. They love their indoor stadium, and I think this game is 100% a toss-up at this point, but I'm going to go with the experience and the Rams in this matchup here, so that would make a Rams-Seahawks NFC Championship game for me, and a Patriots-Bills AFC Championship game. 2 divisional matchups in the title games.
We'll say Devontae Adams is used to playing in the cold, so I don't think that will be a problem for him if he can be healthy. They both have good rushing attacks, so they're both capable of that. I really don't want to pick the Bears. I don't think the Bears this soon will win this game. I'm going to go Rams. If for whatever reason the Bears make it past this, then the Seahawks are a slam dunk to make the Super Bowl.
Be a good NFC Championship game, but yeah, I agree.
So yeah, I'm Rams on this one.
So what's interesting in that NFC Championship game that we were just talking about, the Bears and the Seahawks, is Darnold throws a lot of interceptions and the Bears get a lot of interceptions.
Yeah.
Something would have to give in that matchup.
Well, it would be in Seattle, and I feel like they'd comfortably be in control, so I don't think Darnold would be that rattled.
Absolutely. Well, I look forward to this matchup. You're picking the Rams in this one too?
Yeah, we're the same on the NFC side, and we're opposite on the AFC.
So that means that it's probably going to be Texans, Bills that win their matchups, or Patriots, Broncos.
When it comes to the AFC matchups, I fully 100% believe they're 50-50. So I would not be surprised either way. I would, as a Texans fan, the Texans pull it off against New England, I would not be upset playing the Bills.
Well, streaks end eventually.
I would be rooting for whichever one won that. Probably rooting for AFC winner regardless this year, because I'm okay with any of these 4 teams. I would prefer Texans or Bills because they haven't won a Super Bowl. But
yeah, I'm good with the Bills. I'm good with the Rams. I'm good with the Seahawks.
You just can't say the Texans, can you? You just can't. You just can't say it.
Dude, that offense is horrendous.
Yeah, but it's they're the new 2007 Giants, Jeff.
Except for you don't have a Hall of Fame quarterback right yet.
Well, I mean, he wasn't remotely close to Hall of Fame at 2007. I don't think
We'll see
Eli
what he ever gets
I
there.
don't think Eli is a Hall of Fame quarterback, to be honest with you. And
Well,
that's sad because he has 2 Super Bowl rings. But his
can
defense,
you tell the history of the NFL without Eli Manning?
no, because the helmet catch and
Yep,
Brady
and the
losing
Manningham.
to the Giants twice.
What about the Manningham? What about him
Yeah.
defeating the undefeated Patriots?
Yep.
There's a lot of data points where you have to talk about Eli Manning in the game of football.
Yeah.
I think you have to talk about Eli more than you have to talk about Peyton, which is really weird because we know who the better quarterback actually is between the two of them.
Yeah, Peyton had such a rough start, and if you look at Peyton's Super Bowls, they were not because of the offense in the playoffs. In the playoffs, he was very mediocre, and the defense got him there.
Absolutely. Well, I look forward to this weekend here. We have 7 total games left of this season. We put a bow on it after that. For this week to the week after, and then the Super Bowl.
All right. Well, that does it for another episode of the Never Too Early Fantasy Football Podcast. Thank you all for downloading or listening to this episode, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. Please leave us a comment and share the show. Every little bit helps.
You can find us on all podcasting apps by searching N2E Fantasy and with our handle N2E Fantasy on all social media platforms. Please join our community and give us a follow. Until next time, take care of yourselves and remember, it's truly never too early for fantasy football. Thank you again.
Bye, everybody.